In today's tutorial, we will be creating a basic version of the Space Invaders game in SwiftUI. The game will enable the player to shoot enemy spaceship invaders. For each spaceship that is destroyed, the player gets 1 point. The player has 3 lives to start with. This is what we will be building. So this is a basic example of Space Invaders. As you can see, for each enemy that we destroy, we get 1 point. I've got about 4 points so far. And I've got 6 points now and 3 lives. So this is the game that we're creating, which is a basic version of Space Invaders. Within your SwiftUI project, create a new struct and call it bullets. Select Swift file, click on Next, and name it bullet. Click on Create. And now we create our struct, bullet, identifiable, the purpose of making it identifiable is so that the bullets can be within an array, a loop, so we can cycle through the bullet struct using a for loop or some type of loop. Var ID, UID. Each bullet will have a unique ID. Var position, CG point. That should be CG point. And the purpose of that attribute is to represent the position of the bullet. And create another variable called velocity CG vector. And the purpose of that variable is to represent the velocity, the speed, and the direction of the bullet. And then we need another variable called isPlayerBullet. Bool. And the purpose of this property is to indicate whether the bullet is a player bullet or one of the enemy bullets. The next struct we need to create is called Invader. Create a new Swift file. Invader. Similar to before, make it identifiable. For ID, as before, we give it a unique ID. bar position CG point. That's the current position of the invader, which are the enemy spaceships. Bar image name string, and that will be the image for the invader, the actual ship. The next view we need to create is our game overview. So this will be a SwiftUI file. Select SwiftUI view, click on Next, name the file Game Overview. We can delete our preview. After lines 10, enter the following: bar, score, int, bar, restart, action, void. The purpose of that closure is to restart the game. On lines 14, we need to create the VStack. Text, game over, font, .large, title, .foreground color, red, .padding, and then we need to create an element for the score to display the user score. Font, headline, foreground color, white, padding, button, action, restart action. So when the button is clicked on line 25 with an action, it will call the restart action closure. Restart. That's for the caption of the button. Foreground color, white, padding, background, blue, corner radius, 10, and then after lines 32, we will just set the background color of the game overview to black, background color, black, edges, ignoring safe area, all, padding, 20. We'll just compile it. In next week's tutorial, we'll start to add the game functionality to the content view. In this tutorial, we'll start to implement our game functionality within the content view, but really the functionality should be within an MVVM structure, but maybe we'll do that another time in a different tutorial. But for now, all the game functionality will be in the content view. Open up your content view, and then we have to add a few at-state variables. Which includes the following: at-state, private var, player position equals CG point X UI screen main bounds divided by 2 Y UI screen dot main dot bounds dot height minus 100. The purpose of that line is to enable the player's spaceship to start in the middle of the screen. I think there's a spelling mistake somewhere. Main dot bounds dot width. We also need another variable, at-state variable, at-state private var bullets equals bullets. For an array of bullets, the object array of bullets, at-state private var invaders, which are the enemy spaceships, invaders, invader object array, at-state private var invader direction, CG float equals 1.0, at-state private var players lives 3, at-state private var game over equals false, at-state private var timer at-state private var invader bullet timer at-state private var can shoot equals true, at-state private var score equals 0, at-state private var, no, that should be constant, let player speed CG floats equals 10. Let invader speed CG floats equals 5. So the next thing we will do now is to start implementing some of the functions. So the first function we will implement is called start game. We implement that after line 34. Func start game invaders equals we need a function called create invaders. So just comment that out for now because we haven't created that function as yet. Players lives equals 3. Game over equals false. Timer equals timer dot schedule timer. So for the time interval, that should be 0.1. And then we just need repeats, true. And then within our closure, I think there's an error somewhere, schedule timer. Oh, that should be with time interval. And then we have to create a few methods here, which is update bullets, update invaders, check collision, check game over. So what this line does on lines 41 to 47, it will execute all of these functions within a loop repeatedly. That's why we put the value true with the repeat. So it's repeating it all the time. So I just remove the comments from that line. And then we need another timer event after line 48. And the purpose of this timer event is to enable the invaders to shoot bullets. Invaders invader bullet timer equals timer schedule. Similar to this one, so I just copy and paste it. Just paste it there. And then we have to call the method invader shoot bullet. So with the invaders, this will be done continuously in the loop, so that, within the timer event, so that the invaders are shooting their bullets every 0.1 seconds, which is there. So the next functionality we need to start on, although we need to implement these later, the next one we need to start on is called create invaders. The create invaders functionality will create the actual enemies that will be shooting back at the player's spaceship. Function create invaders, which will return an array of invader objects. Var invaders equals invader, that creates a new instance of the invader object as an object array. Let rows equals 5. Let column equals 5. Rows equals 3 and columns equals 5. And what that does, it defines the number of rows and columns for the invaders. The next thing we need to do is to define the spacing between invaders. Let spacing CG float equals 60 pixels. And then the next thing we need to do is to loop through each row and column to create the invaders. For column in 0 dot dot column, there's some columns. Let x equals spacing times by CG float column plus spacing divided by 2. Let y equals spacing times by CG float row plus 100. And what that does, it calculates the x and y position of each of the invaders. And then, having the position, we need to pass the x and y elements of the invader's position onto an array. So this is what we need to do now. Invaders, append invader create a unique ID. The position is CG point X and Y. We just pass X and then Y. And then for the image name, it will be called invader.image invader.image name. And for the actual invader.image name, which is this one, I'll be using this image, which is on my desktop. This one here. I'll just pass that to my assets folder. Then rename it. So these type of images, you can download them from Google. Then the next thing we need to do is after line 72, just return our array of invaders. So now what I'm going to do, I will comment out these functions that don't exist at the moment. And now I'm just going to compile it just to make sure everything is okay. So this should be space on lines 50 after equals timer. I'll just compile it again. It's compiling. It's compiled. So the next function we need to create is called, I don't know if we should call it player shoots bullets, or if we just call it shoot bullets. So we'll create that function after lines 75. Func shoot bullet let bullet start equals, and it should be start equals CG point XY. For X, we supply the player's position dot X And for Y, we supply the player's position, dot Y minus 30. And what that does, it will calculate the starting position of the player's bullet. That will be about 30 pixels above the tip of the spaceship, so that we can see the bullets coming out of the spaceship, of the player's spaceship. Let bullet n equals CG point X player position dot X Y equals 0. And what that does, it defines the end position of the bullet just above the top of the screen. Let angle equals at tan 2 bullet n dot y minus bullet n dot y bullet n dot x minus bullet start dot x. Bullet n dot x minus bullet start. Yeah, this one's incorrect. It should be bullet starts dot y bullet n dot y minus bullet start dot y bullet n dot x minus bullet start dot x. And what that does, it calculates the angle between the start and end position to determine the bullet position as it's triangulating on the screen, moving across the screen. And then the next thing we need to do is to calculate the velocity of the bullets. Let bullet velocity x equals cos angle times by 10. Let bullet velocity y equals sin angle times by 10. And then the next thing we need to do is to create a new bullet instance. And then we have to add that bullet to our bullets array. So just type in bullets, dot append, bullet, UUID, position, bullet, start, velocity, CG, vector, we need a CG vector that has the overloaded dx and dy, which is the second one here. And then for the dx, we need to pass in the bullet velocity x, so that's bullet velocity x. And for the dy, we need to pass in the bullet velocity y. Is player bullet true? I'll just compile it just to make sure it's all okay. In next week's tutorial, we will add the Invaders shoot bullet functionality and the check collision functionality. In this tutorial, we'll be implementing 3 methods within the content view. The 3 methods include move player to enable the user to move the player, and update bullets to loop through the bullets currently active in the game and remove bullets that have moved off the screen. And also we'll be implementing a method called update invaders. The purpose of that method is to enable the movement of each invader to move horizontally across the screen. So that's what we're doing in this tutorial. Within your content view, add the following method, which is called move player func move player to location CG point let new x equals min max location dot x 0 UI screen dot main dot bounds dot width player position dot x equals new x. So the purpose of that method is to limit the player's movement within the screen bounds, so that the player is always on the actual screen and they can never scroll off of the screen. Our next method that we need to create is called update bullets func update bullets for I in 0 dot dot less than bullet dot count. So we're looping through all of the bullets in the array. Bullets dot position dot x plus equals bullets open bracket I dot velocity dot dx. And then we do the same thing for the y position Position dot y, velocity dy, and then we exit the loop. Bullets equals bullets dot filter $0 dot position is more than 0, and $0 dot position. Now this one should be $0 dot position dot y, and this one should be dot y as well. Is less than UI screen dot main dot bounds dot height. So this method, update bullets on line 96, it loops through all the bullets that are currently active in the game, and then on lines 98, it updates the X and Y position of the bullets based on its velocity. On line 103, it removes the bullets that have been moved off screen above the top edge of the screen. And then the other method we need to create is called update invaders. And what we need to do is to loop through all of the invaders in the array. And then for each of the invaders in the array, we need to get the X position and the invader's direction. Invaders position X, and we concatenate it with the invader's speed multiplied by the invader's direction. And then we need to check to make sure that the invaders hasn't reached the edge of the screen. Position .x more than UI screen .main .bounds .width minus 20 or $0 position .x is less than 20. So if the invaders have or they're near the end of the screen, what we need to do is to move each of the invaders downwards towards the screen. So the invaders reach the bottom of the screen. For I in 0 dot invaders dot count, invaders open bracket I dot position y plus equals 10. So for each 10 pixels, each invader will be moved downwards to the screen. I'll just compile it, make sure it's okay. In next week's tutorial, we will add the functionality to enable the invaders to shoot bullets and to also to check for collision detection. So the purpose of collision detection is that it enables the player's lives to be reduced each time when they are hit with one of the enemy's bullets. So that is for next week's tutorial. In this tutorial, we will enable the invaders to fire their bullets to the player's spaceship. As you can see here, the invaders are firing their bullets to the player's spaceship, and then the player's spaceship gets destroyed. And we'll also add the collision detection so that when the player shoots their bullets at the enemy gets destroyed, as you can see there. And for each enemy that gets destroyed, the player gets a point. As you can see, there's 4 points. Now there's going to be about 6. So that's the functionality that we're creating in this tutorial. Within your content view, create a new function called invader shoot bullets. I'll just create that after lines 119. Func invader shoot bullet. If not invaders empty, let angle equals a tan 2 bullet end dot y minus bullet start dot y. Bullet n dot x. That's spelled incorrectly, so that's bullet end dot x minus bullet start dot x. The variables, they're not defined. I thought the variables were defined at the top of the program near the content view. So I'll just define them here. So we need a variable called let bullet start equals CG point X invaders, invader position. Invader position. Invader position dot X. So we need to define that variable because I thought it was already defined. Let invader position equals to invaders random invader index dot position. Let random invader index. This is another variable that should have been created at the top near the content view. Index equals index dot random in 0 dot dot less than invaders dot count. So on line 126, we just need to fix this one, which is invader dot X, comma, Y, invaders, position, Y plus 20. Is that correct? Invader position. No, that should be position and not direction. Invader position. That's spelled incorrectly. It should be POSITON. Invaders position. And then bullet ends. We need to define bullet ends on lines 127. Let bullet end equals player position. And then next thing we need to do is type in the following. Let bullet velocity x equals cos angle times by 10. Let bullet velocity y equals sin dot angle times by 10. And then now we need to pass the bullet object onto the bullets array. Bullets dot append bullet UID, generate an ID, position is bullet start, velocity, CG vector, and we use the DX, DY overload, and then we pass in the bullet velocity X for DX, and we pass in the bullet velocity Y. Is player bullets? No, which is false. It's the enemy bullets. Now just compile it. Just compiling. Within the invaders shoot bullet function, what's happening is that the first thing it does, it checks to see if there's any invaders remaining in the game. And then it, by using the invaders dot is empty, not is empty, what it's doing, it will choose a random index from the invaders array, which will represent a random invader. And then it gets the position or the coordinates of the invader at the chosen index, which is on line 125. And then it calculates the starting position of the bullet, which is bullet start, which is on line 126, this one here. So because the bullet's starting position is just below the invaders, we need to add a 20 pixels between the invaders' position, top position, which is the Y coordinate, and then on line 128, it calculates the angle in radians between the bullet starting position just below the invader and the player's position. And then this will determine the bullet's direction. And then on line 129, it computes the x component of the bullet's velocity using cosine of the angle. The bullet speed is set to 10 units in the direction determined by the angle, which is here. And then on line 131, it creates a new bullet object with properties such as a unique ID, which is the UUID, the starting position of the bullet, the velocity vector, which is the bullet velocity of X and bullet velocity of Y, and then we just add true or false to indicate if it's a player's bullet or enemy bullet, and then we add the actual object onto the array. So that's what we do here. So it passes all of these attributes to the bullets constructor, the init method, initializer, and then it passes the actual bullet object onto the bullets array. So yeah, that's it for this week's tutorial. I thought there'd be enough time to do the collision detection functionality, but there isn't, so we'll do that next week. So next week we'll do the collision detection functionality and the check game over functionality and the restart game functionality. In this tutorial, we will create the collision detection functionality and the game over functionality. The purpose of the collision functionality is to increase the player's score when an invader has been destroyed. Within your SwiftUI view, within your content view, create a new function called check collisions. The next thing we need to do is to loop through each of the bullets, which is the bullets array, and then to loop through each of the invaders. It should be invader in invaders. And then the next thing we need to do is to check if the bullet and invader are close enough to collide. We type in if abs bullet position dot x minus invader position dot x is less than 20 and abs bullet position dot y minus invader position dot y is less than 20. That should be 20, not 29. And bullet is a player's bullet. So if all of that if statement is true, the bullets or the for each array has the wrong name. That should be bullet with one T. If all of this within the if statement is true, then that means a collision has been detected. So we need to remove a bullet from the bullets array. Bullet index equals bullet dot first index where $sign dot zero, the ID, is equal to the bullet ID. So where they're the same, we want that bullet to be removed from the array. Bullets dot remove at the bullets index and then also we want to remove the invader from the screen because it's been destroyed. So just type in safe unwrapping and then invader index equals invaders dot first index. So we can do what we've done previously. Just copy this line. Paste it there, put a full stop there. And then for the ID, that's the same, but we need to use invader instead of using bullet, so that's invader.id. And a close bracket there. And the closed bracket should be there, and the open bracket for the if statement. And now the next thing we need to do is to remove the invader from the array index, invader index. And now because the invader has been destroyed by the player spaceship, we can now increment the score by 1 point. And then the next thing we need to do is to exit the loop, so we use break. And now the next thing we need to do is check for collision between the bullets and the player so that the player's lives can be reduced each time when they collide with one of the invader's bullets. So to do that, we need to implement that functionality after lines 155. It's a little bit similar to the previous one. For bullets in bullets, if abs, what I can do, I can copy some of this on line 40 because it's a little bit similar, and paste it on line 159. If abs bullets dot position dot x minus player position, and it should be player incorrectly, minus player position dot x is less than 20, and abs bullet dot position dot y minus player position dot y is less than 20, and it's not a player's bullet, because we don't want the player to collide with their own bullets. So if it's not the player's bullet, that means it is the invader's bullet, the enemy's bullet. So if that is true, that means collision with the player's bullet has been detected. Bullets dot first index where $0 is equal to bullet.id. So the bullets, that bullet will be removed from the bullets array using the bullet index. And because the player collided with the bullet, with the enemy's bullet, we need to reduce the player's lives by 1. -1, and that should be -1. And then the next thing we need to do is to check if the player has any lives left. So if the player's lives is less or equal to 0, that means that the game has ended. Game over equals true. We also need to stop the game timer. Invalidate, timer.invalidate. Invader bullet timer dot invalidate. So we stop all the timers, and then after line 173, we just break out of the loop. The next method we need to create is the check game over function. Check game over. If invaders dot is empty, so if there are no invaders left, then game over is equal to true. But what else could be done here? Instead of ending the game when there's no invaders left, we could just add another level. So if all the invaders have been destroyed, go on to like level 2. Maybe I'll implement something like that in another video. timer question mark dot invalidate, stop all the timers. Invader bullet timer, invalidate that one, stop that one as well. The next thing we need to create is our restart function so that the user can play the game again. Bullets dot remove all. Invaders dot remove all. So what we're doing here, we're just removing all items from the array. Players' lives equals 3. It's a new game, so the players have their lives back again. Game over equals false. Score equals 0. Invader direction equals 1.0. And then the next thing we need to do is to restart the timers by using timer.invalidate, and then restart the invader bullet timer. As I said before in the first tutorial, this design should really be implemented using MVVM or something similar. But maybe I'll do that in another tutorial if anyone wants it. Start game. I'll just compile it now. In the next tutorial, we will implement the actual content view body so that the game is fully functional and with all the methods that we implemented in this tutorial, in the previous tutorials. So that way you see the actual gameplay in action. And that's for next tutorial. In this tutorial, we will add the UI elements to the body within the content view. The first thing we need to do on lines 27, add a Z-stack, and then we need to delete the lines between 28 and 31. And then we type our if statement, if game over. And the purpose of the if statement, if the game is over, we want to display our game over view. And within the game overview, we also pass our score and To enable the user to restart the game, we pass our completion handler, our closure. So that's incorrect. Type in restart game. So that's the method it should call. Else, if it's not to restart the game, that means the player wants to play a new game. So we need to display the actual player ship onto the view. And how we do this is that we use an image, system name. We just use a triangle image, fill, dot resizable, dot frame, which is the size of the spaceship, the player's spaceship. Next thing we need to do is to position the player's spaceship using the player's position variable. And then to allow the user to move the player's spaceship across the screen, we need to add a gesture. And also, we need to make it draggable. So that we can move the player's spaceship left to right using our fingers. On changed value in so within that closure, there's a D missing for change, should be changed. And then within our closure, we need to call the move player method. And then move the player's ship based on the user drag location. I'll just compile it. And then after lines 40, the next thing we need to do is to loop through the bullets and then display each bullet on the screen. So each bullet has an ID, that's why we have to use \.ID for each bullet object within the array. bulletin, rectangle, dot frame, width is 5 and height is 20. So the purpose of that line 45, is to set the size of each of the bullets. As I said before, really all of this should be within MVVM model or something similar. Let's type in dot position, bullet, dot position. That's the position of the bullet, and we need to set the color of the bullet, which is dot red. Next thing we need to do is to loop through each of the invaders and display them on the screen, similar to the bullets. Invader in. And we display each of the invaders using the invader name.image name. For the image, we have to set it to resizable and then specify the size of the image, of the invader's image, the enemy's image is 40 and the height is 40. So the width is 40 pixels by 40 pixels. And then we have to set the invader's position, invader.position. The next thing we want to do is to display our score element, which is within text, UI element, which is score, to display the current score, dot font, dot headline, dot foreground color, dot white, dot position, X is 100, Y is 50, and that's the position of the score. Text element, and we have to do something similar for the players' lives. I'll just copy what we've done because it's a little bit similar. lives, players' lives. And we don't have a player's lives variable. So we need to assign that at the, oh, it is here, player's live, but it didn't come up. Oh, there it is, spelled it incorrectly. Players' lives. So that will display the remaining players' lives for the game. Foreground color should be white, and the position is X UI screen dot main dot bounds dot width minus by 100 y 50. And what that does in line 65, it just positions the player's lives label about 50 pixels away from the right, from the top right of the screen. And then we need to set the background color. Background color, which is dot black. Now that's in the wrong position. We should also delete the padding, so the background color should be after line 69. Background color dot black. It's not picking it up. That should be background. Should just be background. Background dot black, and this is the background for the actual view, for the whole view. Dot edges, ignore safe area. Dot all. Dot on appear. Again, we call our start game method. And then the next thing we need to do is to add dot on tap gesture to enable the user to fire bullets when the user clicks on the screen. If can shoot and shoot a bullet. So when the user taps on the screen, for each time when they tap on it, a bullet will be shot from the player's spaceship. Can shoot equals false. The reason why we need to set it to false is to prevent rapid firing. Dispatch queue. Main. Async. After deadline, which is now. Plus 0.2. So after 0.2 seconds, then the user they're able to shoot again, to fire from their spaceship. Self.canShoot equals true. Now let's run it to see if it works. Because now the game should be completed and it should be playable. So I'll just run it. As you can see, it's a playable game. We can destroy the enemy's spaceships, and for each bullet that the player fires, if it hits the enemy, you get a point for each one that's been destroyed. So if one of the enemy's bullets hits the spaceship, then the game is over after 3 attempts. So the player gets 3 lives. And then there's a little basic game over screen. Click on the button to restart the game. And as I said before, we could also add levels to this game. So when we complete the first level, this being the first level, then it gets harder and harder. So that's the game. Thank you for joining us. If you found this tutorial helpful, please comment, like and subscribe. See you next week.